Hello, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Green Screen. You can see that there's, nothing behind me, and as you can see, I love Legos. I have like a whole bunch of kits, and I just like buy them and I store them. I have this huge kit, Starry Night. You know what? I'm going to show it to you. Hold on. Okay, so as you can see, it has dust. Oh, as you can see, it has dust on it. Right? So here's Starry Night, this huge Lego kit that I bought 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago I bought this kit, and yeah, it's one of the from their Lego ideas. They have them where you can go in and propose an idea, and if there's enough votes, then they'll make it a kit. And this was one of them. I also have a Winnie the Pooh tree with all the Winnie the Pooh characters that I have yet to put together. And I think the reason why I haven't put them together is because I don't have I kind of have the room for them, but there are other kits that I would love to get from Lego, but you know what? I'm digressing. I'm getting off topic. Let me get back on topic. So, for my last behind the green screen episode, I introduced to you I Dream a World, which and I explained why it was so important to me. So, I'm going to highlight another book that is it's one of my favorite books, and there's a very big reason, well, huge reason, but big reason, but there's a reason why, right? So the book is Edith Hamilton's Mythology. Am I reading? Yeah, there we go. Edith Hamilton's Mythology. Now, this book is not the book that I had in high school, but it's like this book. It's exactly like this book. Um, and I think I bought this when I started reading again like I used to. And I think this was in the late 90s that I bought this book because, I was thinking about it and I was like, oh, man, I'd really like to get this book. And in a way, I'm kind of glad that I did. But in any event, the reason why this book is so important to me, or is one of those books that will always follow me no matter where I go, is how I was introduced to this book. So when I was in high school, I wasn't really very enthusiastic about school. I did enough just to get by, and all my teachers were like, she has the will. She has the what one I'm trying to remember. One teacher says she has the will, but the flesh is weak, or something to that. Something like that. Like I had the talent, but I really wasn't interested in tapping into it or doing anything beyond what was enough to get me by. I wasn't interested in achieving. I wasn't interested in being an A student. That just wasn't me. And, I wasn't, I didn't have, I wasn't hanging out. It wasn't one of those things where I was hanging out and, smoking in the bathroom or something. I wasn't that type of person. I didn't stick, or I didn't have a clique or a crew. I would hang out with whoever wanted to hang out with me. And that's basically what I was like in high school. And from high school I only have one like friend that I've had since that time, that I've held on to. We've been friends for like 40 years now that I think about it. Yeah, because we met in high school. So no, 30 years, 30 to 40 years we've known each other. So So that's what I was like in high school. However, I've always liked writing, could always read books beyond my grade level. So here I am in high school and I'm reading all those saucy novels that you really shouldn't be reading as a teenager, like books from Judith Krantz and Sidney Sheldon and Harold Robbins and Jackie Collins. Yeah, all of those books. I was reading all of those books in high school. And so as a matter of fact, one of the uh, people in my class used to call me the smut lady because I like to read smut. That's what it was called, smut. Today it's like romance novels, but these weren't romance novels in the they you have to read them to sort of understand. But in any event, but those are the kinds of stuff that I was reading in high school. And in one of those classes, mainstream classes, I read a book called The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. And I fell in love with her writing. And when I found out that she was 16 and wrote her first novel and got published at 16, I was like, bet I could do that. So that's what I was trying to do. Like, I was actually writing like a teenage type novel while I was in high school. And I was reading all these books. And so I don't know what teacher, to this day I don't remember, and they're probably dead, so it really doesn't make any sense to find out. But one of the teachers decided that I would be really good in honors English. And I really couldn't understand it. I really was just like, okay, I guess. So when we were in this class, one of the books that we were assigned to read was this one. And I fell in love with Greek mythology. I don't know what it was about it. All these creation stories, I just thought it was one big gigantic soap opera, okay? Because you had the gods and goddesses on Mount Olympus. There was 12 of them, 12 or 13, or I can't remember. I have to look. But there are all these gods and goddesses, right? Zeus is a dog. His wife is just like beside herself because she can't keep her husband, who is also her brother, out of other women's beds. She's constantly punishing the kids that he has with these little link ups or these little hookups. And he's always looking at some poor nymph who's just trying to survive. And he'll just go down there and disguise himself. And before you know it, the girl is pregnant and Hera is after her. And this is like, so it was like one big soap opera. So Zeus has all these illegitimate children, right? These demigods. Like, so there's Heracles, who's also known as Hercules. There's Dionysus. There's Hermes, the ones with the guy with the winged sandals. All of these characters was just, it was just, to me, it was just dope as hell. Okay. And then you have all of these stories that sort of explain the world around them, like why things are the way they are. Like, why is there heaven? And why is there Hades? And why is there earth? And, all of this stuff. And one of my favorite stories is the one that explains why we have the seasons. And you probably know it. It's the one in which Hades kidnaps Demeter's daughter Persephone and takes her down to the underworld. And Demeter is so distraught she can't find her daughter. And Zeus sort of like he refuses to interfere because he's like, I'm not going to approve it, but I'm not going to disapprove it. And it was like a really big cop out by Zeus. Okay. And so Hades is basically holding Persephone, not necessarily hostage, but he is holding her because he won't allow her to come to the surface. So Demeter is like, okay, if y'all are going to play this game, then this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make the land barren because Demeter was the goddess of crops and farming and bountifuls and all of that. So she was like, okay, no one's going to tell me where my daughter's at. And Zeus, you're not going to interfere and bring my daughter back to me. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to lay waste to the land. Okay. I'm going to lay waste to it. And it will stay that way until I get my daughter back. So she wasn't, it wasn't a threat, it was a promise, and she went through on her promise, and the entire land was barren, and the human race was about to die out. And then all the gods all of a sudden decided to speak up now because they're realizing that without the crops humans can't exist, and if humans don't exist, then gods won't be worshipped, there won't be sacrifices, there won't be anything, right? There'll just be a bunch of sad people staring at each other on Mount Olympus. So Zeus was like, all right, all right, Hades, like, okay, playtime's over. Okay, you see what's going on. You need to read the room. Okay, you got to do something. So, what you need to do is you need to give up Persephone and let her go to the surface and visit her mom's for a while, for like 6 months, and then you get her back. So, that's how they explain the seasons. Persephone, when she goes down to the underworld to stay with Hades, we have winter. And as she's about to come up to the surface to be reunited with Demeter, her mom, we have spring and summer. and then fall is when she's about to go back down to Hades. I just thought that that was like one of the most beautiful stories that was out there, and I think that coupled with all the other drama is the reason why I took to Greek mythology, and to this day I love it to death. I love it to death, okay? So that's why that book was is really important to me, because the way that it was introduced to me, the fact that someone at that school thought that I was smart enough to be in an advanced English class when I didn't see it. But here's my regret. I shouldn't say regret. We should not have regrets. Okay. It was what it was. But I had wished that I had embraced what someone else saw in me and took it to the next level, you know, because I really did not believe in myself. I really did not think that I had any talent in anything. Even though I like to write, I didn't know if I was good at it or not. Right? There's, I guess by assignments, the graded assignments that I knew this, but I still did not believe it. I still didn't see that in myself. And oddly enough, I did not realize how smart reading made me until I took the ASVAB. And that in itself, strangely enough, was the boost that I needed to really start believing that I had a talent or I was smart. Because when I took the ASVAB, and by the way, that is, let me see, ASVAB, the aptitude standard test, uh, battery aptitude, vocation, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, the ASVAB is the entry exam that you take when you need, so they can classify you in whatever occupation or job or rate. In the Navy, it's a rate, whatever rate. So I remember being so nervous because my recruiter made me nervous. And the reason why my recruiter made me nervous was because he needed a hit, right? He needed a body, but he wasn't sure how I was going to go down because I was attending a community college. I kid you not. He said to me later, he thought I was a brick for attending a community college. And much years later, I didn't realize what an insult that really was. Having taught at a community college, I don't understand. There was always this misconception that community college was like the 13th grade. And it really isn't. I mean, I was challenged when I started college. Before I joined the Navy, I was in college. I was at a community college for a year, and I was killing it in my English classes. I was getting A's. And, but I still, believe it or not, I still did not believe in myself. And I had even made Dean's List for the winter intercession. I got straight A's. But this man who I barely knew, this recruiter, had me feeling as though I wasn't smart enough, right? So I remember it like it was yesterday. My recruiter picks me up early in the morning and he takes me to Fort Totten. Yes, Fort Totten, which was in Bayside, in the Bayside, Queens area. It's closed now. I mean, they still use it as a base, but not the way it was before or back then. And so he took me to Fort Totten where I took the ASVAB, and I'm sitting in the ASVAB. And the first test was vocabulary, and the second test was, I want to say, reading comprehension, or it had something to do with reading. I remember that. And so I'm going through the test, and I get to, there's a part where they test you, your knowledge about math. Always been horrible. And um, electricity, science. There was a science component to it that included electricity and circuits and stuff like that. So I'm sitting there and I'm sweating. My heart is sinking because I'm thinking I'm going to fail this and I'm going to get the crappiest job that they can find for me, right? But I've already resigned myself to the fact that I'm ready to leave. I don't want to stay in New York anymore. I got to get out. So at this point, I don't care. Whatever they give me is whatever they give me. So at back then, and I don't, of course, I don't know what they did now, but back then, what they would do is they would give you the raw score. They would be able to calculate it right then, and they would give you the raw score on a slip of paper. So I'm looking at the numbers, and in my head, I'm thinking, I did so crappy. He is going to be so disappointed in me because I'm a female and I'm seeking male approval. So so that's what I'm looking at, the slip of paper, and I'm walking out of the testing room, and he's in the car, he's out front, and I'm walking and my head is lowered, and I get into the car and he's like, "What happened?" And I said, "I did awful." And I handed him the slip of paper. He looks at the paper and he said, "You aced it." And I said, "I did what?" He said, "You killed it. You killed it. You got a near perfect score in vocabulary and comprehension. And, forget about that. But you killed it." And I can't remember what. I was just in disbelief. I don't think I laughed or cried or did anything. I was just in disbelief. I kept asking him, like, seriously? Seriously? And that's when he told me that any occupation I wanted, I could have. And when I sat down with the detailer and we were going over all the occupations, the only thing that I thought about was journalism. That's all I wanted. I said, I want journalism. And the detailer said, no billets available. We have radio men. What's that? I said. He says, well, you'll be dealing with equipment and transmitting, and it's all, secret stuff. I'm like, no, no, no. I want JO. I just kept saying, I want JO. I want journalism. I want journalism. And then he came back with cryptologic technician. And I said, what's that? And he says, it has to deal with code. And it's about code breaking. You'll be a spook. That's what it's called. It wasn't meant to be what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't meant to be a racist insult, right? Because we all know black people used to be called spooks. But this was actually what cryptologic technicians were called. They were called spooks. He said, you would be a spook. And I said, well, that doesn't sound all that appealing. And so that's when he said, well, that billet is not available immediately anyway, so we'll have to send you out into the fleet. And I said, well, what good does that do? Try again. I'm serious. I didn't realize being so picky would serve me. It was a good thing that I was this fussy and I was so picky about my occupation, right? Even at the age of, was 19, 19 or 20. Yeah. I was like, well, that doesn't do anything for me. Come again. And so he says, okay, how about this? All right, we have this program called the task program. Because when he said that we would just send you out into the fleet and then you can strike for anything, I was like, oh, no, 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 no. No, you're not going to throw me out in the fleet. And then, if all the stars are in alignment, I get something. What if that's not going to work. So he says, well, okay, well, we have this program called the task program. What will happen is that we will send you out into the fleet. If we do not get your A school for cryptologic technician in 18 months, you can get out on an administrative discharge. And I thought, hmm. And he says, we'll frock you to E4 when you complete your training. Oh, okay, let's do this. And so that's how I got my job in the Navy, negotiating with the detailer, getting in under the task program. As a matter of fact, I got my school, let's see. I was sent out into the fleet December. I was sent into the fleet into December of 89. And then in 1991, I got my A school. So it was less than 18 months that something freed up for me. Now, what happened after that? That's a story for another time because there is a reason why I only stayed in for 4 years. Yeah, there's a reason. But in any event, this is why this book is so meaningful to me because it was the first book that really let me know that I was smart enough to understand Greek mythology, something that was like a soap opera to me. I also got to read Hiroshima in that. I'll never forget that. And the reason why I don't say Hiroshima and I say Hiroshima is because of the teacher who was teaching that class. He like corrected us right off the bat and says, "It's not Hiroshima. It's not Hiroshima. It's Hiroshima." Yeah, I didn't like him. He was one of those old white men with walrus mustache, and he was like very curt. I think that was another reason why I really wasn't all that interested in the class because he was a bit of a pompous, I could say this now, pompous ass. Yeah, I didn't like him. But in any event, so I hope you liked my little tale. Next, for my next episode, I will tell you, or I will feature another book from one of these bookcases here, and another one. Probably, I will probably do it. One of the books that I read during the summer of 1999. The summer of 1999. That was a reading summer to remember, and I will go over it in my next Behind the Green Screen episode. So, thank you for stopping by. And if you haven't subscribed to the OG Fact Checker, what are you waiting on? Like, what's your problem? What's your sitch? Okay? Because I'm putting out some really good stuff. So, subscribe already. I got some really good stuff coming up. I basically have a list of names that would no doubt carry me through probably until September, if not longer, right? Because I'm gearing up for Hispanic History Month. Oh my days. I got some I'm excited about September. Okay. All right. So, thank you for stopping by and please come back for my next episode of Behind the Green Screen. So long.